The problem isn't that AI is bad at content, it's that most people are not using it at the right level. There is the prompt that we have all become familiar with. Operating at just the prompt layer isn't really enough. You need to come up a few layers to the systems layer. There's a gap, and that's what I'm going to be closing in this video. Welcome back to Serena's Playbook, the place where you are leveling up your strategic thinking, whether you're in communications, in the content space, in the business and brand communication space. I'm here with more than 20 years of media and comms experience, a chartered public relations practitioner, and a background in systems thinking. So we talk about AI a lot here, especially with my with my framing of don't lose your cognitive abilities, don't let them rot. That's my bias over here. The three things that AI inherently lacks without the human led interventions and parameters is that there's the relational context bit, knowing who your audience actually is, not really who they might look like statistically according to the data that your LLM has. So there's that relational context bit that you have to do yourself as a creator, the strategic thinking, the strategic thinker or the brand communicator, right? Then there's also knowing what the brand tension is. There's very specific things that your brand cannot compromise on, knowing that area of your reputation management. And I've got a course on that. You can check that out in the description. It's free. Then there's the bit about earned authority, the voice that comes from your lived brand experience, from your lived professional experience, you as a practitioner or the business, rather than the typical arbitrary cookie cutter kind of advice that you will get from your LLM without knowing, hang on a second, what is the actual authority and expertise that you have and how much insight do you actually bring. So the strategic shift that you need and that you need to do is whenever you prompt, before you even prompt, perhaps you've got to translate these things into very explicit instructions, because you can't just give an instruction, say, oh, create this for me or help me script this. You've also got to provide the constraints, the tensions, the context. And still, I would always recommend you still fine tuning it. The best writing happens in the edit from my writing experience. So if you are going to be creating content with some AI help, do not skip that bit. Go through the editing process to really refine and take it up a level. The other thing here to really keep in mind is that there is a feedback protocol that most people treat AI like it's a vending machine: input, output, and done, and that's enough. Whereas if you are going to look at this as a higher order thinker, then you need to see it as, okay, this is a much more complex and sophisticated partner that requires a little bit more calibration than, oh, let's just treat this as a vending machine, which is so frequent now with the way that we are hearing and witnessing content coming from even long form creators. You can hear the cadence, the style of the script. It's very typical of AI. So what kind of things can you do in order to make it work for you, so you're calibrating more effectively to make it work for you and your content creation? Okay, so first thing is, it comes down to your knowledge. What you know isn't necessarily public, but it's also not generic. And it can't be replicated easily. So you've got to think of that bit. You have the knowledge that this vending machine cannot just spit at you, considering all of that knowledge, and then spit the product out to you. There's also the tone of voice, and I've covered this in my brand communications course, which you can get right here, 21 days. Um, your tone of voice can also shift with each communication piece that you put out. And so you can't necessarily expect the LLM, your AI, to replicate that entirely. You might have to provide examples of this, that this is, what content, worked for the audience. This is what perhaps didn't for these reasons. You've got to feed it a little bit more insight. And then there's the bit about failure when things don't work. You have to perhaps make things very explicit. Like, these are things that absolutely won't work for my brand or for my audience or for the context that I am in. What this does is it will turn that, oh, here you go, just take this info, take this prompt, and now give me what I want. It will make the process much more iterative. You have to make this system much more smarter, even if you don't, I mean, if you don't have faith that the AI is going to get smarter and do this for you, make the system and the calibration smarter so that you can get something a lot more fitting for purpose. Let's now look at the final bit, and we're talking about generating communications from the idea to actual output. There are things that you will always want to know for sure. And the pretty cool one is, what am I saying and what should I say? A higher value communication answer would be perhaps what needs to shift for your specific audience with this specific communications piece. What can you answer it that way? You see, there are various objectives that you can have in place to help you generate a communications piece that will land. Now, AI doesn't know what kind of shift you require. AI doesn't know what the real business or creative dilemma is for your audience. Only you know that. So sometimes it's helpful to feed your LLM with, this is what I need to happen. My audience are here currently with this communication piece. I want them to be here for the reasons A, B, and C, because this doesn't work and it therefore doesn't work my product rollout, and this here will help my product rollout. It will help the storytelling for the marketing campaign, for example. So the transition from just putting bits of information in, like prompts, compared to calibrating, providing much more context, and perhaps doing a Q&A with your AI, will provide you with, again, communications pieces that will really hit the mark. And what that will do is you'll be much more aligned with your audience, because your audience, your stakeholders, they are all expecting an experience from your content and from what you're putting out there. And if you just end up churning generic stuff out there, then the likelihood is you'll lose them, because there are plenty of creators who are just losing me, because I can just see it's quite transparent that they are doing things the sort of lazy way, not necessarily efficient, smart, higher ordered thinking way. And that's really what I'm here to do. Now, I am absolutely, let's say, sympathetic to the content creator journey. There is so much that you have to do that takes up your time and your energy and your focus. However, if we are going to be doing this, then we need to not cut the very vital corners. We have to evolve with these changes that are continually impacting us and our audiences and our stakeholders, and figure out ways to continue to communicate really impactfully and take our thinking up a notch, higher ordered thinking. I really appreciate you and your time and your attention for this video. I hope you enjoyed the 21-day course that I provided on brand communications. It's a lecture series. It's not as punchy as this video. And please do subscribe. There are more resources available at the link at the top of the screen. Well, it's not clickable, but it will tell you what the link is, and I'll see you in the next one.